don't label the kids. We don't give a confirmed diagnosis to the parent below 3 years. I always say your child is at the risk of getting a developmental disorders. I have very young mothers who come and say, I knew something was wrong and we wanted to come to you, but my elders in the house won't allow me to do it because they say child will get all right by itself. If they were to come early, we could do a lot more for the children. The awareness is there, but what is, I think, difficulty is acceptance. Do they want to accept that the child has a problem? The wait and watch is what is killing us. Your child today won't be the same tomorrow. He or she will learn. She will improve. Every child will improve. And every child, I also tell the parent, you are the best parent. This child cannot have a better mother or father than what you are.
Welcome to India Autism Center's podcast. I am Medha De, mentor and coordinator of ISC's Training Academy, where we conduct courses on autism for anyone who is interested to know more about it. Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Dr. Nandini Mundkar. She is a renowned developmental pediatrician who is the founder and director of Center for Child Development and Disabilities. Her other initiative is totsguide.com, which is a portal for early developmental screening. Dr. Mundkar has trained over 100 pediatricians on management and support for individuals with autism, ADHD and learning disabilities. Hello ma'am, welcome to India Autism Center. So is this your first time in Kolkata?
Oh, not at all, not at all. I've been to Kolkata many times. I've done several talks for the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. I've come here many times and it's one of my favorite cities.
Wow, that's
Why I
great
say
to
it
know.
because I love your sandesh and rasagullas. I love your saris, your Kolkata saris. I love your painters. I think you got the greatest musicians. I like your Shantiniketan. So I would feel ever, I think it's really a city of joy for me. So thank you for having me.
So you have an expertise of over 30 years in this field. So ma'am, my first question to you would be, how do you define the concept of neurodiversity, and in a society like India, how important is it for us to understand what neurodiversity is?
Neurodiversity anywhere in the world is the same. We in India have a lot of children across socioeconomic status, across lifespan, that is, and over the years, there are something which have improved in India is better survival of premature babies. Your neonatal intensive care has become better, so you're having lot more children surviving. But the morbidity in them as they grow up is of concern. That is, you have, I think, more children with developmental problems like cerebral palsy or going on to all the high risk babies having morbidity. If you have to say that high risk babies which are extremely preterm are surviving, almost 30 to 40% of them have more morbidity. The second aspect is, of course, the poor socioeconomic conditions or poverty or children growing up in those circumstances because of poor nutrition, because of poor maternal health, also will have neurodevelopmental problems. All in all, you will have 10 to 15% of population who will have some form of neurodevelopmental disability or neurodisabilities.
Right. So, how much awareness do you think India has in terms of these neurodevelopmental conditions?
Well, there is quite a lot of awareness. There's a whole, there's a Government of India Social Justice Department. You have people building in awareness. You have district centers, intervention centers, and over the years we have made a considerable progress. And there's awareness among pediatricians, which is much better than what it used to be before. And as I see, children which used to be in my early days of my career used to come at 5 years, 6 years, now come as early as 9 or 10 months. That means there is awareness among doctors, there is awareness among even I think parents, for example, of the awareness is there. But what is, I think, difficulty is acceptance.
Right. Right.
Do they want to accept that the child has a problem?
Right.
The wait and watch is what is killing us. If they were to come early, we could do a lot more for the children. But the wait and watch is something I think even the professional should not advise, which I find many professionals would say, oh no, wait, the baby is only 10 months old or 1 year old. There are many mothers who come and tell me, I feel something is wrong with my child. It's not making an eye contact or not respond. And I spoke to my doctor and they say, wait, we'll see. If the daughters don't say it, the elders in the house say it. So either way, I feel acceptance or seeking help early, if the awareness comes in public, it will be much better. I said the medical fraternity is far better than what it used to be.
Right, absolutely.
I also want to say that the awareness among pediatricians has built so much. There is a separate chapter called the neurodevelopmental chapter in pediatrics, which even offers fellowship degrees for doing developmental pediatrics.
That's excellent.
As a specialty. So the awareness is a lot, built in the, and I think the professional awareness is very important because that's what helps the parents to get aware. Because every pediatrician who comes aware of these problems would then can talk to the parents when they come to them and say, seek help with the concerned doctor.
Right. Absolutely. And despite that, I feel there is still some stigma or some myths that parents or other caregivers or even other professionals kind of follow. So what are some of the myths that are still floating around when it comes to the neurodevelopmental conditions?
Oh, there are a lot of myths. The first myth is the child will get all right by itself. See, unless there is a disorder which gives an obvious feature, like a child, say, with Down syndrome, which has some kind of dysmorphic feature, or a child with cerebral palsy who cannot walk, or the parents will seek help. But kind of autism, which is, I call it the hidden disorder, what is affected is the social communication, which is not obvious to the eye. And we have yet to believe that there are milestones to be followed in social development and communication development, which will not improve as a child gets older.
Right.
So the myth is, first thing is a hidden disorder, so it's not awareness, and the parents believing the child will get better as the child grows up. So they believe in that very firmly, and many times supported by the elders in the house also. I have very young mothers who come and say, I knew something was wrong, we wanted to come to you, but my elders in the house won't allow me to do it because they say it's the child will get all right by itself. I'll never forget from one of the villages of I practice in Karnataka. There was a lady who had a child, and about 2.5, she detected saying, my child is not well, it's not responding to my we sing a lot of songs for the kids.
Right.
Like it's there in Bengali as well as in all this baby songs that gives you gestures and claps, and so my baby is not responding to anything, it doesn't even look at me, something is wrong with my child. And she's from a little poor socio-economic status. So she told her, and you know what her mother-in-law told her? You want to go to the city to have fun, there's nothing wrong with your child, you just can't take her and go. And she really, really came to her mother's house once and brought the kids, and it was such a severe autism in that kid. And in fact, she had free treatment from us, but even to come that, was so difficult for her because they couldn't get convinced. And of course, the child is severely autistic, but she tried her best. That's what I'm trying to tell you is a myth about this hidden disorders is very, very sad.
Right, exactly. So, like you have advocated for early intervention, how important it is to detect and and get the screenings, get the assessment done as early as possible. So, what would you say to parents who are initially very hesitant or reluctant to get an assessment or get a screening done, because for them it's like, what will society say, social stigma, the labels. So what would you say to parents or caregivers?
Don't label the kids. You see, in the initial years of life, when the child is growing up below 3 years of age, it's a very, very fast growing brain. We call it the neuroplastic brain. The brain develops. We don't give a confirmed diagnosis to the parent below 3 years. I always say your child is at the risk of getting a developmental disorders. You don't give up, because a lot of rapid changes can occur in the child, and especially when the parents perceive that, then they're going to say these doctors are just talking something not correct. So we always say that when the brain is developing rapidly, and the neuroplasticity, as we call it, when the brain is making, I told you, 700 connections with every snap of a finger, we just say there is a risk. We see on the screening your milestones are not achieved. It would be nice if you can correct this now, so that you have a greater chance of child overcoming this. So don't give a diagnosis. Why do you want to put them into a kind of defensive mode? If you tell them, if it's I think the word just saying it's at the risk, don't take the risk, I think is a better way for communication. I think a lot depends upon how you communicate with the parents.
Right. So ma'am, you have trained over 100 pediatricians on how to support individuals with neurodiverse conditions. So how would you say the landscape of the Indian healthcare system has evolved in this field?
I tell you what my opinion on this is, with the advent of lots of vaccines, office practitioners, see the pediatrics has got, let's put it, now the specialization is so much. In an office practice, a general practitioner feels very inadequate to what else can I do? Because if the child has a problem with the lung, they'll say go to the pulmonologist or go to an intensive care specialist. You're just treating some diarrhea and some cold and cough and giving vaccination. It's very frustrating for a pediatrician who's qualified so much just to do this, because all the time people want to go to specialists. And my advocacy is, this is the cheapest specialty you can do. The investment is very little, except your knowledge and your time. You need very little equipment. So unlike if you want to set up a neonatal intensive care, you need crores of rupees. And if you want to set up something, a hospital, it needs any amount of money. But a developmental pediatrics is a low cost specialty and very useful, not only to a child with developmental disorders, for your own child too. A lot of child development is what a practitioner can improve his own skills for his own family, for his own brothers, sisters, uncle, aunt. You're somewhere related to a kid, and you can help a lot. And so that's where is my convincing power, which I talk to pediatricians, and they're realizing it more and more. More and more pediatricians are coming forward. In fact, they're coming to do a private fellowship in my institution, showing that yes, I want something even more than this. I want to set up really good centers. So that's very, very encouraging for the country. And then Government of India also has got its own district intervention center. Every district in every state is supposed to have a intervention centers, which is actually funded by the central government itself under the RBSK project, Rashtriya Bal Sevak. Their government has a big program. Yeah, so there is lots and lots happening in the country for the good.
And once the pediatricians meet the parents, so it kind of can create a snowball effect where other parents talk about other conditions and slowly build an awareness.
Sure, you're right.
Right. So ma'am, now I would like to ask to you, what kind of therapy or what kind of an intervention would you suggest to parents or other professionals for individuals who have neurodevelopmental conditions? So how can they differentiate from an evidence-backed therapy session from other alternative therapies which could potentially be harmful to the child and the family?
See, the model which I follow is called the NDBI model, which stands for naturalistic setting, which is the setting of the house. You have to have a program based, which the child, see how a child development happens, that you must have a previous skill to develop the next skill. What they understand best is the motor development, because that's what the parents really know. That we say your child has to hold his neck first. and then turn around, then sit, and then stand, and then take first steps, then few steps, then runs and walk stairs and so on and so forth.
Right.
I said, so is the milestones in all the other areas of brain development, namely social, communication and intelligence, called cognition, which is not obvious to your eye.
Right.
But it has the same sequence to follow. I cannot say my child is not speaking any word till 3 years and suddenly one fine day gets up and starts speaking everything. It doesn't happen. The child has to go from non-verbal communication to single word communication, understanding one word to follows then 2-word commands, and the language has its own milestones to follow.
Right.
So is for intelligence. So you have to know, and milestones are that we develop certain proficiency in certain streams of development at a particular age.
Right.
And if it doesn't happen, and it's not a point, it's a range. Say for example, walking can be 9 to 18 months. So we have ranges for milestone, and if it's in the outer limit of the range, then you have to be sensitive that is there a delay in my child. We call that red flags.
Yes.
So we tell parents, red flags are everywhere. If your parents are IT savvy, they can just Google what are the red flags for language development at 2 years. It will tell you. What are the red flags for intelligence at 3 years? It will tell you.
Yeah.
So if you find your child is at the red flag, we don't say that the child is going to get a disability, but what we say is consult your pediatrician and ask, what should I do? Is my child delayed? If delayed, where should I get an intervention done? So it's all about sensitizing them to follow milestones, track milestones, and then of course also understand the red flags, and then we have to also tell them that the brain develops 80% neuroplasticity, called the developmental plasticity, that is foundation for developing skills, is right before 2 years of age. So don't delay. This is an opportunity to correct the child to the maximum. So if you were to convey this, and I think they accept and they do come for assessment and follow up afterwards if there is any cause to worry.
Right. So how do we kind of make sure that they avoid any potential like harmful kind of therapy?
I believe every parent does the best for their child in whatever knowledge they have. We can guide them, you can tell them, but I don't think we are anyway judgmental for anyone to do anything.
Okay.
I think it's their child. We can tell them, this is what I know in my specialty. People ask me, can I give homeopathic medicine? I said, I don't know. I'm not a specialist. Why would I want to talk about something I don't know? Maybe there's some good in it. Or God forbid the child doesn't have much problem and takes homeopathy and gets all right, they'll come and tell me, you discourage us. So we are no one to judge. We can only guide people.
Right, absolutely.
And I think you should be honest and guided to your best of ability. And what they do is their problem. I believe in that.
So, ma'am, there's a concept of PBS or positive behavior support. So, how important is this concept when it comes to supporting individuals with neurodiverse conditions?
Many of the children, as they keep growing with a developmental disability, will tend to have behavioral problems.
Okay.
Now let's see, children below 2 years. Their problem is because they don't have a thinking brain, the communication is very poor. They will do temper, tantrums, biting, hitting.
Yeah.
All these are behaviors which will be manifested in a young child. Not that it self-injurious, head banging. Parents will come and tell, because the child doesn't know how to express its feeling, doesn't have words, and also they don't have, as I call, the thinking brain or the prefrontal cortex, which we adults have, which starts to develop around 2.5, it goes till 24 years. So the child acts on what is called as the automatic or the limbic brain, which is the emotional brain. It does not know, no other way they know how to show their distress. But every behavior is learnt. And every behavior can be managed. And it depends upon the co-regulator. Co-regulator means the adult who is with the child, whether it is a therapist or the parents, should know. For example, a child biting, throwing temper tantrums at 5 years of age, even if it's a neurotypical child, knows what it wants, and it invariably due to 4 reasons.
Right.
Either they want attention or they want to escape from the task. Best is that Tare Zami Par. That boy is very happy to be let out of the class.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't know, he has a learning problem. He says, Appa, I'm outside, better off than getting yelled at by the teacher.
Yeah.
Third, of course, is they want some tangible rewards. Where I want this, I can throw a bee. And the fourth is they may have some sensory issues. Fundamentally, if you can analyze which of these 4 reasons the child is throwing a behavior, you will be able to manage. At the same time, if you don't analyze correctively, you will call what is called the cohesive cycle. For example, my child is throwing a temper tantrums for wanting a particular thing. And every time he cries, mother says, oh, stop this nonsense, take it. So the child realizes, oh, when I cry and do this, I will get it.
Yeah.
So he does that, then he'll say for the second, third, but the parents, because the parents are succumbing to his own temper. This is called the parent cohesive cycle. The parent drives the behavior
Right.
by madly managing it.
So there's no consequence to
Not the consequence you don't manage, you always manage prevention. Consequences are difficult to manage. We call it antecedent. What made this child throw this behavior? Few minutes, just 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute actually, 30 seconds. What did, and then try to prevent the antecedent.
Okay.
Never try to manage the behavior. And second thing, at the peak of meltdown, when the child is kicking, yelling in the store, and the parents want to give gyan, you stop it, and you can't. You have to just take this child out to a safe place,
Right.
protect it. Afterwards, you have to connect with the child, and then when the child is cooled down and is much in a calmer position, you have to try to manage it. So, behavioral management is a very, very important technique. There are various techniques. This I've talked to you about a young kid. The older children have a different way of throwing. And adolescent and others will show it even, become oppositional defiant. I won't do it, you do what you want. I will do this, They contact, they'll answer back, they're abusive.
Yes.
So with the age it will differ. So it's a behavioral, it's a big, but I think every professional and all the parents who have children with neurodiversity should have ideas of behavioral management. And then it's easily manageable. It's not difficult to manage. I shouldn't say easily, but it's not difficult to manage behavior because, and it is, behavioral management is data driven. You have to know why, when, how, where the child throws his behavior. So, and you have to manage that situation.
Right. Only then you'll be able to understand why.
Yeah. And second, sometimes it's called setting event, that the child who hasn't slept well the previous night. You bring him to school, he can't learn, he will throw a behavior.
Right.
A child who's sick, the parents say, doesn't matter, go to the center. No matter, again the poor child is ill. So it will throw a behavior that, these are all setting events, hunger, pain. We have to really analyze. Does the child have any problem? Ask a history from the parents. Something happened. Why is this child throwing a behavior? If something happened in the house, the grandmother was staying with them, left. The child is missing her. Can throw her behavior, isn't it?
Yeah.
The mother has left the child and gone off to work. The child was perhaps looking forward to something and didn't happen. It can throw her behavior. So there are very many issues to deal.
Right.
Don't deal with the behavior.
To find out the antecedent of that behavior. Right. Absolutely. I think this is a very important thing that everyone, parents, professionals need to remember, instead of, constantly, let's say, attacking the child for doing that particular behavior.
And it can't do anything.
Yeah. It will not lead to
Yeah.
any management or any support for the child. Right. Thank you so much for that. I think that's a very important information that everyone around us needs to know. So, how do you envision the future of neurodiversity and pediatrics in India today?
Okay, what is happening now in India, it's recently we are realizing, earlier it was only early intervention, early intervention, early intervention. People didn't think. Now these children, we realize, live. Even a Down syndrome can live till 50 years, and children with autism can live even till 70. There's nothing life-threatening in them.
Right.
So we are going to get more and more children in school age group, adolescent, adults are going to be with this condition. And we are very ill-equipped in our country to deal with this problem. How do you manage schooling for them? Okay, early intervention, 3 years, 4 years, what happens to them? What kind of school? What kind of program? And there are not so many centers like your India Autism Center, which is so beautifully conceived, and you're going to reach out to, can only do limited. See, now there are not so many special schools. Or at one end we are talking special schools, and then at the other end we are talking about rights of every child for education. So they have to be included into the normal streams, and these inclusive schools, are they geared to manage the children? So it's a very complex problem we are at now to be sorted out, that what kind of education, what kind of intervention, what kind of therapies, what kind of vocational training, what kind of their future life, what kind, and that is one aspect. The second aspect, particularly in autism, is majority of these children, as they grow up, will have comorbidities. Comorbidities means psychiatric morbidity. Anxiety being the most common.
Yes.
They're all anxious.
Yes.
Very, very anxious kids. And anxiety doesn't make anybody learn anything. Then as they grow older, many of them have ADHDs along with them. Then they go on to have OCDs, very common. Obsessive compulsive disorder in these conditions are very common. Lastly, of course, depression and other things which as they grow. So we should have professional gear to help to manage this, which is what is lacking. I mean, there are very few child psychiatrists in the country and who really know autism. Every child psychiatrist does not seem to know how to manage autism or comorbidity. And giving medicine, like many children come to us, risperidone or aripiprazole, this all does not address the core symptoms of autism. In fact, it's far more harmful to a child to be given these medication without thinking than understanding why are we giving this medication.
Right.
What is it going to help? See, a child is agitated, they put them on risperidone. Risperidone doesn't handle agitation, it handles only irritability. So they have to know this. So this is what is the problem. So we have to train a lot of professionals.
Right.
That is going to be doctors or even psychologists or somebody who identifies this and then refers to the doctor for a correct kind of medication and then has a program. So I see this is going to be the future.
Right.
The more we get aware of the survival of these children, more about the needs about them. The second thing is now their sexuality. As they become adolescent, they are like any other child or any other human being. They are going to have. But we see in sexuality it's like this, that development of sexual organs and desire is like any other human being.
Right.
And that's not driven by the thinking brain, it's automatic brain. All of them will grow hair, all of them will get their maturity, they will become a man, girl will become a woman with menarche. But in a normal human being, we use our our conscious brain, which tells us where and when to indulge in what act.
Yes.
That thinking power these children don't have. So for them, they get into trouble in schools, unnecessarily, because they indulge in certain acts
Right.
of sexuality which is not under their control. Nobody taught them.
They themselves don't understand what is happening
So
to them.
it is the job of us to make them aware from a very young age, make them aware of what are their needs. So you see, the training has to be, you should have a foresight.
Okay.
any training center that, okay, what for this age, what to this age, and you must convey this to the parents. The parents should be aware of this. This will happen. Suddenly they'll come to a child, oh, my child is getting thrown out of school because he's masturbating or something in front of the all crowd. No, the poor child doesn't know that this is his desire, and he doesn't know where we can do what,
So the parents also need to be more
the professional, this is what is a good center's job, is to get the parents aware and say it's not the fault of the child. He all that we have to teach him is social skills of what is a private place, what can you do, what's a public place, what we can do in a public place, so all this training has to start very young.
Right.
And we can't wait till the whole, okay, let him come to adolescence, I'll start then at that time. It's too late.
Too late.
So, so this is what I see as a future problem, that we need to train lots of professionals in all these areas, be it special educators, the psychologists, the doctors, the awareness in the parents. So we need to, teachers, schools, everybody, the school counselors, social workers.
Yes.
We all have to have a collective forum to get ourselves updated in the knowledge and then bring it across and talk about it. You see, it's a big taboo in our country to talk about sexuality. It's a taboo to talk about, what's a taboo? It's a body science.
Very natural.
It's all natural. But we make it a myth. So what do these children do? Go to social media and get wrong information.
Exactly.
And indulge in it and get into trouble. So we should prevent that.
Right, absolutely.
Do you agree with me?
Absolutely agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. It's very important for everyone in any field to kind of have a basic knowledge about these things too, so that they can help their own family or even people around them, right? So one last question I have for you, Doctor, is what is that one message you would like to give to parents who have children with neurodevelopmental conditions?
I have to tell the parent, live in the present. Your child today won't be the same tomorrow. He or she will learn. She will improve. Every child will improve. And every child, I also tell the parent, you are the best parent. This child cannot have a better mother or father than what you are. You are. You have all the potential. So just understand, accept the problem and go forward with the therapies, because your child will make a difference with the therapies. So just don't shy away from it. I mean, don't worry about what your neighbors will say about your child. Look at your child, not going. It's not the child. Your child is unique. Every one of us are unique. We are not like anybody else. There are no two people in the world that are same. So don't compare your child with anybody else. He or she has got her own journey to go through in this world. And let her do it happily. And you also become a happy parent and rather keep worrying all the time. And that's not going to solve your problem. So take action, will be my message.
Thank you so much. I think that was a very insightful session that we had, and I'm sure our audience will also agree and take away a lot of information from this. So thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you for being here with us. And
pleasure is mine, and thank you very much for having me. And wish you all the very best with your India Autism Center.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am.